Hi everyone, welcome to CoronaCast episode 5. Once again, we're being a little bit different today as Alex Galbraith, my usual co-host, had emergency surgery, appendicitis surgery, on the day that we were going to record. So I just decided, okay, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I had scheduled an interview with Ryan Vaughan, chief meteorologist at Region 8 News, KIT, Jonesboro, Arkansas, and I decided, let's just do a one-on-one with Ryan. And so I did that, and that's what you're about to watch. And this interview will just be the entire episode. We were gonna have kind of put it in between, like inside episode 5, but I decided, it's gonna be a bit of a shorter episode, but just gotta let Alex recover, see whatever happens with that situation, and we'll be back to normal for episode 6, and he can tell us all about the craziness that has happened in the past 24 hours. So sit back. Hope you enjoy this awesome interview with Ryan. He's a great guy, very interesting, and I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did. So today for the CoronaCast, joined by Ryan Vaughan, chief meteorologist at Region 8 News, KIT, Northeast Arkansas, Jonesboro area. Everyone at A-State's very familiar with them, keeping our eyes on your forecasts. So I kind of want to ask before we get into the main topic, which will be the tornadoes that kind of came through a month ago. How did you get to Jonesboro, like, in being a meteorologist? What kind of give you the inspiration to do that career, and how did you end up in Jonesboro?
Well, it's funny. I have loved weather my entire life. So I've never been the one that's like, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I always knew I wanted something to do with weather. I was the kid that stayed up late waiting for it to snow, loved thunderstorms. And usually most meteorologists, it's either you loved it or you were scared to death of it. So I was the one that loved it, but I didn't necessarily want to do the television side of it. That changed really and kind of evolved in college. It was, as a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to be the weatherman because that was the only thing that you really saw with meteorology. But as I got older, I thought, okay, wait a minute, I can work for the Weather Service, I can do research, I can go storm chase, I can do something along those lines. So as I was getting older, I was like, well, maybe I don't want to do the thing that you have to put a suit and tie on and you have to shave and, all this stuff. So fortunately, things have kind of changed to where, I don't even have to wear a tie all the time and I don't have to shave. I have a beard now, which is amazing. But it's funny. I got to college and they said, you've got a minor in something. I'm thinking, okay, math, physics, what? They said, well, most weather people do broadcasting. So I said, okay. So I did it and I ended up liking it a lot. I went to Western Kentucky University and they had a news program there. And while I was there, we started a 24-hour kind of an on-call weather thing, not 24-hour weather all the time, but if there was a tornado watch, then we would be at the campus TV station. And then they gave us the rights to something incredible. And it also led to me getting my first hate viewers was we could break into all of the cable I'm saying like every channel. So like it was not only like one channel, we could break into, I don't care if you were watching ESPN or if you were watching CNN, we could break in and do tornado coverage, which was pretty powerful as, a 20-year-old kid.
For sure.
And so, but then you also, we quickly started realizing that, people were like, it better be a tornado coming at us for you to break into every single television station on the campus. So that's the long answer of how I got into meteorology and then how I got into broadcasting, because and even when I graduated, I got a job when I was in college working for the Federal Aviation Administration, doing weather observations, and loved it. It was a great job in college, great job after college. But I wanted to still kind of dabble in television, and a buddy of mine led me to get a weekend job in addition to my FAA job doing weather, which quickly led to Monday through Friday weather. And then back in those days, what you did to get a job in broadcast meteorology is you sent out a bunch of VHS tapes all over the world and hoped that someone called you back. Well, someone called me back here from Jonesboro named Randy Titano, and he calls me up and he doesn't really say where the city is. Keep in mind, I've sent out 35 VHS tapes all over the place. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, I know where Arkansas is. I kind of knew where Jonesboro was, but I didn't have all the call letters memorized. So he calls me up and he says, "Hey, we're with KAIT, and we want to bring you in for an interview and interested in your work." And I went through this entire conversation. Yeah, excited. I'm great. Yeah, I can be there next week. When I really didn't know if it was Jonesboro, Arkansas, or Sacramento, California. I had no idea where I was saying I would be there in a couple of days. And so he finally, I forget, said something that kind of led me to go, "Oh, okay, that's in Jonesboro. Good. That's only 4 hours away." So I didn't know anything about the place. And so my wife and I moved here, and it was a lot flatter than what we were used to in Tennessee. But we really loved the place. Now, in this business, you move around to get promotions, more or less. So I initially was the weekend meteorologist at KAIT, and the same company had an opening down in Montgomery, Alabama. So that's why I went down to Montgomery, Alabama. And at that time, I had one kid and my wife, and we moved down to Montgomery, Alabama, and loved it down there. But this was really a better place to raise kids. So we had another kid while we were down in Montgomery, and they called me up and asked me if I wanted to be chief meteorologist back in Jonesboro. And we hopped all over it, and kind of the rest is history. We've kind of put our roots down here, and now we have 4 kids, and so we're kind of settled in here now and really loving Region 8.
All right, cool. Because I've seen Facebook posts of, like, I believe you've posted, stuff from way back when you were kind of your initial tenure at KAIT. So what was like the first year you started working at KAIT, like in your first tenure before you went to Montgomery?
That was 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about 20 years, and with that, I mean, sure, you had your stint in Alabama, but now you've been in Jonesboro for a long time, and you've been really, I feel like, embedded into the Jonesboro, Northeast Arkansas community. Like, I see you at every single A-State football game. You're on the sidelines delivering the weather. I see you posting stuff about, you're doing community and charity events within the community. How was it just kind of a natural thing where you spent time, this is where you want to raise a family, so you want to help out the community, or how did you get so deeply embedded in the community?
Well, I look at it as a way that God has put me in a position to that I can utilize to help the community out, whether that means bringing awareness through social media on some things or just being there in support. So even though I'm not from here, I didn't graduate from Arkansas State, this is a huge, huge part of our community. The students that go there are going to be investing in this community. It hires a bunch of people. It is our entertainment venue. It is so much to this area that I would be stupid not to embrace and support. Other things that I'm involved in is just things that have kind of just been brought to my attention over the years. One big thing that we're involved in is at work, especially, is the Family for Me segment, where we are showing you, putting a face to the numbers of the foster community in Northeast Arkansas. And that was something that kind of was spawned out of the meteorology side of it also. And you may be wondering, okay, how is that? Well, I would go and visit a bunch of schools. I go in to a bunch of classrooms. And the number one reason I do that is for weather safety. Make sure these kids know what to do in severe weather. And we talk about science, and we do science experiments and just get them fired up about math and science. Well, I noticed over and over and over again that kids were being taken out of the video and the pictures that we did. So at the end of it, I'm like, okay, we're going to do a little video. Everybody wave your, family back at home. And they would pull kids out. And I kept thinking, okay, maybe their parents are just, overprotective or something, whatever, to each his own. Well, then one day I asked, and I was like, well, why can those kids not be? And the teacher said, they're foster kids. I was like, wow, that's a lot of kids, because, if that's even half the kids that I've, dealt with that have been pulled out of these videos and stuff, that's a lot of kids. So started noticing it more and more. And then you start hearing the numbers. And of course, being in the studio, listening to the news all the time, that we have hundreds and hundreds of kids in this area that are needing homes. Finally, I said, why don't we do something about that? And it took about 5 years for us to get through all of the red tape that goes involved on that. but we know for a fact that it is helping. And that was just one of those things where, it doesn't matter if we're in Arkansas or Alabama or Texas or wherever. I think that was just kind of something that God put in front of me that said, hey, this area needs this help, and this needs to be put in the forefront of people. It needs to be more than just numbers, more than just a news story. And so that's been a really good thing for me personally, also just to kind of see families growing and being built from that particular program that we're doing. That was a really long answer for your question, wasn't it?
Hey, we like long answers on podcasts
Okay.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, with that answer, it's pretty obvious of how, like, you become so loved by this community, and you've really become a staple of the Jonesboro community. So in one way, like, you help through all this community work, but you also help with how great of a job you do in your job. Like, I saw someone, like, after the Jonesboro tornado, I believe it was the day after, like, they were talking about you in particular. And of course you have entire weather team at Region 8, but they were saying like you're here, like, you saved lives. You saved lives on the day of the tornado. Before we kind of jump into, like, my main question, like, kind of talking through the day, do you ever think about that? Like, do you ever think about the impact you make, even just through your, like, normal, delivering the weather?
Yes and no. I mean, there are times when I don't know. That's a tough one because it's like, I'm happy to help, and part of me just says, well, that's just what we do. That's just our job. But at the same time, it's a blessing to be part of that also. When I think of people saving lives, I think of like ER doctors and nurses and flight, nurses and air evac and all that kind of stuff. But I always say, and I hate to just, like, I'm not trying to, like, divert that or whatever, but, we can sit there and say over and over and over again to take cover, but it still requires the people to take action also. So, yes, we got that one right on March 28th. But it still took all the people to actually take cover and to help each other. I had a lot of people that said, man, you said to call anybody that in Northeast Jonesboro. And people had phone calls. They weren't watching or anything like that. They just had phone calls. And that's cool also, because it's kind of like we're all in this together. I don't think about it a whole lot. Of course, since March 28th, a lot of people say that, and I don't really know how to take it, or because part of me is just like, oh, it's our job, and then part of me is like, we're happy to help, and I don't know.
A humble man. So let's talk about March 28th. Just kind of through the entire day, like when you first started seeing the storm develop, and when you kind of noticed, like, okay, there might be something severe here, up through when it was actually happening. Because I believe it was Zach who was on the main broadcast and you were on the phone. And then kind of going through, like, when you were able to kind of walk through the aftermath. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah. So the Thursday before that was on a Saturday. The Thursday before that, I had started broadcasting from home because of COVID-19. Now, it's not that I had it or anything like that. We are just trying our best to kind of separate out, because the meteorologists all use the same computers. So, Brian uses them in the morning. I use them in the afternoon. Zach and I are side by side. Well, that day, I said, well, Zach, it's your day. Saturday's your day. I'm not going to come in there and, steal your shows or anything. I'm going to be on standby. Got a camera. I've got access to all the computers. I said, we'll be all right. We'll cover this from here, and no problems. Because we had already not had any issues, technical issues. We knew the chance was there for a tornado. In fact, we had been talking that morning how the chance was kind of increasing just a little bit. So the afternoon rolls around, and shortly after 4 o'clock, Zach and I talked, and we had a tornado watch. We had storms developing. We had storms already trying to rotate. So we knew already that we were about to go on television. And so tornado warning comes out for Woodruff County. Now, that was right after 4 o'clock. I think it was 4:07 or so that tornado came out. And I mean, you could take a straight edge and and connect the dots. That tornado warning, that rotation in Woodruff County was lined up with Jonesboro. And so we made the comment, and you make these comments, not that you are, that I knew a tornado would come 55 minutes out, but there was a rotating storm with nothing to weaken it that was heading to Jonesboro. So we made the comment, hey, if this holds together, it's going to be in Jonesboro before 5 o'clock. And so we followed that tornado, stayed on air, and everything's running fine. Tornado touches down in Jackson County. So now we've taken this to a different level. This is a tornado is confirmed. We're getting reports, and then the pictures and videos start coming in from Jackson County. We're not talking just a small tornado. This was a pretty healthy tornado in Jackson County. And so I am in this office here, and I'm watching, just like viewers at home are, the pictures and video that are coming in. And so Zach and I are talking back and forth. And at this point, we're taking this storm real serious. This is like a dog that has bitten someone. And from here on out, you do not trust that dog. And the tornado picked up in Poinsett County, and it was just a plain old thunderstorm. But you could look at radar, and you can continue to see that the storm itself was rotating. Now, in a mesocyclone, a thunderstorm like that, a rotating thunderstorm, it goes through cycles. I said someone, it was kind of like a basketball player that's just going at it. At some point, they need a little breather. And that storm took its breather over Poinsett County, but it was still showing its potential. It was still showing signs that it could put down a tornado. It was still rotating. Still it was lined up with Jonesboro. So the timing of this, usually you get a radar scan, it starts cycling, you get another radar scan, it's still cycling. Usually that third, fourth, fifth radar scan after the cycle, it's starting to ramp up. So we can see this ramp up already coming as it's crossing into Craighead County, as it's coming toward Valley View. And so, just watching the data come in, I was just sitting there going, it's going to come down right in Jonesboro. And so I made that comment, if this thing comes down, it's going to come down right in the middle of Jonesboro. And unfortunately, it did that. And I was, for the first time, kind of a viewer and a broadcast meteorologist at the same time, because it was funny. People laugh at me snapping. I was doing like this. And what I was doing was, my family's just kind of doing their thing. And that's kind of how they always are. They don't sit there and watch our wall-to-wall coverage until they are threatened. Well, I'm in Paragould. And so usually what I would do if I'm at work is I would call them and say, hey, pay attention to this storm. It's got a tornado. It's heading that way. We also have a little code where I'll just call the number and not say anything, and my wife knows to turn on the television and start watching. Well, a little different now. She's in the other room. The dog is running in and out over here, and kids are running around. I had one kid at work still, and so I'm snapping at all them like, hey, and I just point over to the television to my wife, and at that point, it is forming. And she looks over and looks me in the eyes, and I'm thinking, this is coming straight up 49. So then we start getting everybody down into the basement here at my house. So for the first time, I had this realization of what it is like to be a viewer, because I'm never here. I'm always at work for that, which is so funny because I started to kick in and try to be the leader of the home, directing people where to go. But my wife, she does this all the time, when I'm not there. She's in control when I'm doing severe weather every other time. This just happens to be a time that I'm here. So when I look back on it, I'm like, what was I doing? She has that under control. I didn't need to do anything with that. But I tell you what was odd was when Jonesboro really started taking all the power hits. Even though I was up here in Paragould, I started taking power hits and losing the internet, losing connection to the computers. And when Zach lost connection to one of the computers there also, I'm like, well, we only have 2 radar systems, and he needs it now. And he's there with the generator. I'm losing power. And by this point, debris from Jonesboro is falling at my house. And I said, that's when we passed it over and I went down to the damage. Initially tried to chase it, but it moved to my east pretty fast, and that's when I just decided to head down to Jonesboro.
So what did you like? What was the experience like? Because like miraculously, it felt like there's no deaths. So that in itself was crazy to me. Like it's something that just colossal of a tornado. Like that's the first because I was in Little Rock during it. People were asking me if I was still up in Jonesboro. Thankfully, A-State had already moved me down because of the COVID-19 outbreak. But when you went down, like I hope there weren't that many people there in terms of civilians. Like probably at that point it was just like first responders and media. So what was your reaction like when the moment you saw the damage?
Well, emotionally, I was driving down 49, and I'm on the Greene County Rescue Squad also. So I had my radio with me from the rescue squad, and I'm listening to what's happening in Greene County as the tornado is going through the eastern part of the county there. And I was just listening to the emergency response of Greene County dealing with the tornado, but also they know that they need to get to Jonesboro and help also. And so I'm listening to all of that going on, and I'm driving and I'm watching debris fall. And really, the viewers and the citizens here did really good. I kept hearing, tell people not to come down here, telling people. They really weren't. I mean, anybody that we encountered, it was like their parents were hit, their kids were hit, or they owned a business. It wasn't anybody like, oh, I'm just out here looking around. When I got down there and just saw mangled cars, and I saw Cheddar's tore up and the front of the mall was ripped off, that was kind of the first things I saw. The cars, I think, are really what got me like, we have death here. And I went back over to the mall where the command center was. That's when we started to broadcast, I think about 40 minutes after the tornado had gone through. And I saw the emergency responders setting up command center, and just knowing what I know, they were setting up for numerous fatalities, if not injuries, then just fatalities. And they were setting up a really large area. And I just remember thinking to myself, we're about to start seeing dead bodies carried over here, and they weren't coming. And I kept thinking, okay, the hospitals have to be overwhelmed right now. And then I got word from someone that they weren't. And I kept thinking, okay, communication must be broke down. I mean, there is devastation. We're getting pictures of neighborhoods ripped apart, houses flattened, and I kept waiting for the bad news, and it never came. And I just kept thinking to myself, this is crazy. This is nothing short of a miracle that a tornado of that magnitude, an EF3, went through a very highly populated area, and we didn't have any fatalities. And not only that, I'm like, okay, we don't have any fatalities, then surely we have 150 injuries. And at first it was like, no, we have 6. And I'm thinking, wow, that's incredible. Now it did end up going up to 22, but only 2 of them were hospitalized. So I still don't personally haven't wrapped my mind around how that can be. I'm thinking the virus, of course, with people being in, helped a whole lot. But still, this thing still went through neighborhoods, and people took shelter. So we were fortunate.
Definitely. Like it's still like the way you're talking about it makes me just reflect on it and just reflect on, I mean, it is mind boggling but it's great to know that nothing, nothing that's incredible. What I have to say, because I know the Northeast Arkansas Food Bank started wrapping up stuff. Businesses were hit. There's a lot of coverage on that. What do you kind of like? Are there any, I guess, organizations that you personally want to use your platform to kind of like shout out? It's like these guys are doing a good job, or what have you seen from the community that really has been helping to kind of repair and fix and the damage done by the tornado?
Really, it's just it's everyone. It's a lot of people. I mean, it's churches stepping up, Samaritan's Purse, disaster relief response coming in. And then just individuals also just stepping up and say, you know what, I'm going to spearhead this project. I was there at I forget what road I was on, but I was in one of the neighborhoods that next day, and you had people just delivering food and drinks and whatever you need, and just people coming up saying, hey, I've got 6 guys here. What do you need cleaned up? Do you want us to box things up? And it was like the individuals. I mean, sure, don't get me wrong. It was great to have the organized relief, of course, with Red Cross and disaster relief and all that. But I was really shocked off just the individuals just coming out there and saying, put me to work. And then after that also, I mean, we've had, this Operation Fill Belly's operation, Fill My Belly's operation, something that has kind of been going on for the past couple of weeks that a couple of people just put together. And, I called him up, James Bickham, and I said, man, I just want to come watch it. I said, you can put me to work. I just want to come see this. And they're just giving away 200 meals, that kind of stuff. That kind of thing, because it's helping local businesses and it's helping people out. And, it's this whole hybrid disaster thing that we're dealing with between the tornado and the virus and layoffs and furloughs and people freaking out and panicking. And we're really dealing with like 2 disasters at once, and they're all kind of meshing together. And we don't really know, okay, is this effort helping tornado victims, or is this helping furloughed employees? And the answer is yes. It's everything that we're going through right now. And I think when we look back on 2020, we're really not even going to know, well, what was this event helping? Was this helping the tornado victims, or was this helping the people that were out of work and furloughed in this? And the answer is just, it's everything. We were just all scrambling around trying to help each other in this craziness that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, you said, earlier on that, Jonesboro is the place where, you wanted to start your family and, raise your kids, and, seeing all of the community help each other. It's no wonder why it is a great place to do that, to give a shout out to Jonesboro. Well, Ryan, that's all I have for you. If you have, like I said, I guess any shout outs. I mean, you seem like a humble guy, so it's like, follow me on Twitter at Ryan Vaughan WX.
My only really shout outs is just that, and I've tried to say this over and over again, is the team effort. I mean, there's Zach and I are out there, and Castleberry was out there, which we told Castleberry he's got to quit doing severe weather coverage with us, because every time he does severe weather coverage with us, we show live tornadoes. So I was like, you're just going to take off next time. But, behind the scenes also, we have directors and producers that are talking in our ears and pushing all the buttons and that kind of thing, kind of makes this operation work.